All right. So this is the same thing we've all seen before. So bear flag 4 hour. We're out of this now. So the big thing is just on larger time frames, which I'm considering this a larger time frame because this is definitely the parent pattern that we've got at the time at least. Essentially, what we're considering invalidation at this point is, where am I going here? Invalidation's anything that comes down, in here. Sometimes, like, depending on the trap, if it's a really strong trap, this never happens. You never get that retest. It's like sometimes, this is the ideal scenario where it's like, oh, just short the retest. But sometimes, really, what you get is that. And so that's when I say that, like, when you this kind of scenario, it's when it's like, oh, make them move fast when we break back into the pattern. But you don't necessarily have to make them move fast as much as more or less kind of don't hold it, once you get to a certain threshold. And I'm not saying that, so this is 26,600 if we zoom in on this here. So this is the spot we've been watching right around here. And so I'm not saying that, like, the second we get a wick down here or you're watching a 5 minute that closes underneath of it, that's not really invalidation. And that's the part that gets a little bit more gray, a little bit trickier. It's essentially that, the higher the candle close, the more impactful it is, which is why, you can get down here, you start closing some candles down here, whether it's, actually I would say anything on this bounce is, anything bouncing off the support I have here, 22,563, I'm not really going to be concerned about that. A candle close under the yellow line I wouldn't love, but this is all pretty mobile. The touches on the top of this are, it's pretty easy for me to use this spot here and that one down here, and it moves it lower quite a bit. And so this is definitely just there for the idea. That support level is really what we're watching the most, and it's matching up with what this major reversal was down here. It's essentially that range high. The trickier part in that, if you get rid of all the patterns, it really looks like, if this retraces down here, it really looks like that should, kind of continue back up because we have that support here, we had that bounce here. There's a lot of chatter in here. But this does look like, trading level to level, this looks like it would be safe. The problem with that is it is back in our pattern. And so, coming all the way down here is definitely an invalidation for me. It's at least enough for me to not really like the idea of longs. It's a little bit fuzzy, I guess, because I'm putting the most precedent on the large bear flag, so the large yellow flag that's going on. But like I just mentioned, this top line is pretty easy to manipulate to, whatever you want to see. And so it's not really clear cut. Essentially that, I don't have a certain price that says, hey, if the price hits this, I'm shorting. Which is why, I've got alerts set all over the place. I think that this white line's on an alert, this yellow line's on an alert. I have, these two at the support level. This is basically to let me know that 22.6 was hit. And this one's down here is, in case we get a further wick down or something like that. And so I don't have a clear path. It really comes down to what price action's doing kind of at the minute. I did just put this on here, but I don't really love it because I actually had them perfectly parallel, and this is when price action had just stopped here. I had them perfectly matching up to where they were like, this and this, and then the price action went and did this, and I don't like it. I mean, the volume's not there for it. It just seems strange.
It's scatty. Yeah. I've noticed that a lot. I've noticed that a lot. I was going to say I've noticed that quite.
I think it was just a 6 hour bounce. I think that was probably just a bot buy for the most part. And so a little bit of momentum came in, short time frame, and then everybody's like, oh yeah, off to the races again. And so I'm not buying this, but I think that this kind of a channel down is, more or less something very likely that we get, that, we come down here, whether it's lower, we do the double divergence on the second one sort of a thing. The real question is that, like, there's no perfect spot because this could happen here. This could even happen higher where this is our low. I mean, it could happen all the way down here, all the way down here where it's on our level here. And so the real thing is mostly, finding the longs that you're comfortable entering, like whether it's a support retest, things that are hitting levels that you want to see, and just saying, okay, I'm not buying absolute bottom on this, but because you know when to call it quits, that little bit of drag down is not so detrimental. Of course, doing a bunch of those does eat up the portfolio pretty quick.
Yeah.
But that's definitely the real thing, is that, at some point in this range, it's going to be trying to figure out how strong or weak Bitcoin's looking. Again, even this white line that I have here is not perfect. There's a couple things missed down here. Here, it's right in the middle. So I can add another one that connects these more recent lines. And we're actually kind of touching that.
What was the news anyway about Tesla selling their Bitcoin or something?
I didn't even hear that until he mentioned it. I had no idea. Like I said, I don't even listen to the news. I have no idea what's going on out there.
Right. Probably wise a lot of the time.
Let's see.
I just noticed people posting about it right as that long wick broke down.
Right.
Like 4 different spots posted about it that I watch, and then I jumped on. I just Google searched it, and it's just kind of a news blurb. I think they released their earnings report, and that was a part of the balance sheet, and people are kind of just mentioning it. I don't know if it really had an impact. Maybe that was a catalyst for people kind of dumping there, but I don't think it changes what's happening today.
Really, the follow-up to this is essentially that, like you mentioned, the bear flag's not perfect. It's definitely here. It's just a matter of, there's no clear spot to say call it quits. But if we zoom out, it's the same story with this huge falling wedge that's here. Because, I've seen these drawn, from here to here, and it's connecting all these things. There's some that still have us in the pattern here, and so those are not super clear. I'm sure it'll become clear that, wherever this bounces up to, it's like, oh yeah, whether it's, just retesting this line and moving back down or something of those sorts. I don't really know.
I mean, what I've tried to do is just dollar cost average at various levels on the way down with the alts that I'm looking at, and thought, well, I might have to take a bit of pain on the way down, but the more I buy at a lower price, then obviously I'm absorbing the pain, and then hopefully we get a bounce and see how it looks then, I guess, isn't it?
Which is certainly the way to do it, because really, I mean, what it comes down to is essentially, that it's sort of the go long until it's not okay to go long.
Yeah.
And essentially, that risk of losses right now is, just whatever this distance is, where that potential profit at this point is, to this level or higher up to this kind of a spot. And so, your risk to reward here is better. It's just a sense of, if you do take these losses here, even if this, let's change the color here. I'll change it after this. So even if this is the drag all the way back down in here, and you call quits here, let's have so many colors on this freaking chart. You get dragged all the way down here on your longs. You get to this spot and you go, well, I really should have shorted back here. It's still okay to short here, because if we break back into this bear flag, it's essentially the same thing that we have here. It's just going to happen breaking lower out of this flag. Like, we are going to just fall through the bottom of this. And so it's essentially that you'll miss that initial shorting move, whether this retest happens or not. The final price is somewhere down here. And so it's a matter of, that's why right now we're in kind of that decision point that it says, okay, we have a strong move, we're following this major pattern. If we get back into it, I'd put huge money that we're coming out the bottom here. And so whether you nail this, we get a retest or not, or we do any of those things, it doesn't really matter, because ultimately it just sucks that, there's this potential to take a loss first. And then essentially, if you short here, you get this run up back here, you take another little loss, and it's just about trying to play the larger swing that's going on here. That's why even a lot of people right now are posting shorts, and it makes sense if you are like active day trading, like 5-minute chart kind of time frames. But it's not at all in my risk structure to do that, because it just doesn't make sense. You get an impulsive move higher and things are looking bullish. Like, don't, just go the one direction that the market is actively going. This comes back in, if we start dragging down here, I'm not going to look for longs on this. Just on a trap, like, forget it. Like, there's just no way. And same thing, on a bullish retest, like, I'm not going to look for shorts, because it's exactly the scenario where alts will just fire off unnecessarily. And it's almost a guarantee that the one you try to short, pulls an Ethereum and it's just like, let's just start shredding. So that's really kind of main outlook. I know it doesn't give a firm answer, but really this section that's, in between these two supports is when, I'll quite literally, if I'm at work or something, I'll have my laptop open, or I'll be on my phone if I'm out, and I'm, making sure that I'm still at the right move. And if I'm not, it's exiting until, again, even if you exit a long down here, we come back out, do the same thing, just load up again as soon as we get that breakout, and you go the other direction again. It's a couple losses for, the main gains here. It's just that the small losses can be emotional if you're uncertain about what you're doing. But ultimately, this is the level I'm looking for. I essentially have two main targets. One is essentially that, we can take this, whether it's an ascending triangle that was here or a bear flag that was here, whatever it might be. This comes up here to the top. We're like somewhere around here. But essentially what this leaves us with is that as soon as we start moving here, we're in pretty much a low volume node that we're just chopping through this right now. And then shoot to the next spot, which is exactly why I have, that is my target. I at least have that as, where my alert is to basically say, hey, reconsider. Things are, hitting targets I want to hit. Unload some here. My next major target is certainly where, all of this chopping is. And ultimately, if we do get that run up, it's very possible that we get something kind of like this, where, shoot right past it, kind of wick up to it, but then we spend some time back in that area, sort of a thing. And again, there's no way to nail the tops or bottoms, but this is certainly the reason that I'm looking at this spot, especially with this wick that stopped cold right there. There's going to be a huge sell wall right there. And then the second is right at this next spot.
What levels are they at? I can't see on my screen. It's only on my phone, so it's quite small.
Let's see. First one here is 26.6. Second one I've got is 28.8.
26.6, 28.8. Good, yeah.
And then, beyond that, this top line, because there isn't really much to say about it. If price gets up to this, it's certainly going to be something that people are paying attention to. I'm sure it changes on a log scale, which is, but that going out there doesn't make sense. I don't think anybody's watching that on a log scale. It makes more sense to do long-term analysis on log scale for sure, but not super applicable. But again, my dream as always, which is kind of what we said back here, is that, we do get this run up and we get some sort of, rising wedge or channel or something to trade here. And, we're hitting this top trend line, or we're hitting this level of support. And, the second we move out of it, midterm hold those shorts, because we're coming back down. Almost a guarantee. And so that's essentially what it is, that, we're nearing the end of a huge pattern now, which is when the big impulse moves come, which is what we're looking for. Whether, again, if we get a fake out, it's going to be down. If we don't, it's going to be up. And hopefully we end up forming some next version of that. Again, hopefully that's reasonably helpful. Again, I don't have all the answers beforehand, of course. It's just how it goes. But certainly my level of confidence is yellow line, support. We get below this, over, in my opinion. We get below this line, we're back in the flag. We've lost this major level of support. And at that point, downhill. And have no idea if this is going to hold true. Here. Oh, what was... Oh, what's the chances these are perfectly parallel? Lines up with anything. Okay. Alright, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Not sure that it'll be anything, but on patterns like this, I often like to track it a lot because, you know, essentially when this starts to move down, it'll break its way out, often when these are still inside, and so this ends up overlapping with that. Not all the time, but when it does happen, I'll certainly use it to, you know, build my bias. And again, I'm not sure if this is super valid because, you know, we don't have a whole lot of data here, but I'm certainly going to leave this on my chart in the sense of as this develops so I don't forget about it. But really, I think this is what we're pretty much waiting on right now. Enter the alts you're interested in. We break back down. You're going to take losses on it if that's the case, but, you know, don't get in love with them. I would definitely set... I'm actually going to move this alert under. Definitely set an alert that is in a spot that, you know, hits and then you're kind of in panic mode, essentially, just going, wow, I told myself that this was, you know, not okay earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially that's also under this white line. I mean, again, I'm not putting a ton of precedence on either one of them, but if all of the ideas that I have on here are, you know, here's the support I like this trend line, I like this trend line, if all of those fail, then at that point I'm just emotionally attached to the coins and I'm not selling them. But the good news, if we do get a trap, and I'm kind of excited, if we do, I'll be very miserable because I will take small losses here as well, but I will also be very happy because what happens in these uptrends when altcoins run, and I mean a lot of altcoins have ran 40 to 50%, really you can't be upset about missing those. What that means is that on this trap, they have so much room to plummet when you short. I mean, just absolutely just get wrecked again, and that's what I mean. You got to focus on, you know, essentially in here is not a gamble. It is kind of an if-then, but you can't nail the bottoms, and so there's, you know, some level of risk that happens in the middle. But here's your profits. Here's your profits. That's what it is. Yeah, you don't have to nail these. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't do it perfectly either. I got super, super angry. I actually sold some. I actually did not catch this trap. I was not confident in this one bouncing back up, and I actually sold some longs in here. No joke. Took some small losses here off this bounce. It broke out or broke under, and I said, I don't like this pattern. I need to get out of this. Immediately after that, things run. But again, you just gotta move past it because keep the next thing in front of you. I mean, I took losses here, so I mean, I'm not going to be, you know, Chris sitting here telling you that, hey, we nailed this, we called this move, because I didn't nail this. You don't get it every time. And I actually told myself the exact opposite. I actually was like, oh, you know, we're at a, you know, support line here, and I told myself before I'm not going to do it because it's the third touch of a bear flag. And every other time I've ever entered this far into a flag that should break the other way, it always bites me. Every single time. And so I stopped doing it. And it was just like one of those things that it was just like, no, I don't trust what's going on here. You know, I still think lower prices are in for the market. It's just, you know, maybe not yet. So don't get hard on yourselves for missing stuff because we all do it. And Chris might say he doesn't, but I don't believe him. He doesn't take losses because he gets like a $6 million salary every year or some shit.
Yeah, that's
right.
That's how he offsets his losses.
Yeah. I'm glad someone else can do the maths. Yeah.
But no, I mean, again, don't be hard on yourselves. Literally sold, took small losses on longs because I was like, oh, this is reasonably bullish for the most part. Took small losses on it, runs the other direction. It's like, okay, sure. Sure thing, crypto. Do your thing. But we're getting there. Any other general questions? Let's see actually what this is doing. Yeah, so DXY got a small bounce today. How long is this chart? So this is, wow. Okay, data on normal stocks comes in so slow. That's a month. I mean, real ideal scenario is that, you know, we get to a point where, you know, Bitcoin hits one of those support or resistance levels that we're talking about. And, you know, again, this is not necessarily predicting, it's just always think about the possibilities. And, you know, by the time it hits that support level, this has come back down to this support again and is retesting it. I mean, that would be the clear case to say that we should go the other direction, because as this goes down, it just tends to be better for Bitcoin. But, you know, that might not happen. It might, you know, it might come down to here essentially, and I'm probably gonna add that because this is new all-time highs. I think we're breaking records here. Yeah, so I don't have any supports up there. Just shut down trading view and it turns on like all the indicators. Drives me crazy. Charts are so noisy. What are you? No, I don't like that. I don't like it. I don't know what I like, but I'll probably actually take this level to level. How well does like this distance match up with that support? That lines up oddly conveniently. So I'm not sure that I'm following a real pattern for ES1 other than just saying, you know, what is it, 40,000 or 4,088 is, you know, certainly a level to watch for. The actual small patterns for the ES1, like in my opinion, they really don't matter. It's mostly just trending. And again, it's kind of the same thing, you know. This has broken out higher. Bitcoin has broken out higher. Okay, at this point, you know, comfortable to place positions on longs until those things don't happen. That's really just what it comes to. I mean, this is quite literally the essence of, you know, make the money in the middle, waiting for this to go the opposite direction and then taking it. But
I have a couple thoughts or questions.
Hit me with it.
So, one thing I noticed was the larger cap alts like Solana or Matic, like really, like they capped out before Bitcoin did. Bitcoin ran another, like July 19th at 6:30 from, you know, to its high, it ran 10%, and on the same time frame, July, you know, 19th at 6:30, Solana could not break that high, and Bitcoin went another 10% in that time frame.
That's just all this right here.
It's the dominance.
Yep. It's not something that you can predict without a good pattern. Even with a good pattern, it still isn't perfect. Really, though, exactly what you're talking about is why, you know, exactly that idea is why when I'm trading larger patterns, you know, and you guys also probably hear it too much, is that, you know, I'm always looking for like Bitcoin up tokens, because usually when these breakouts happen, Bitcoin up will outperform most altcoins. There's some that, you know, beat the odds, but for me to do level to level, I'm essentially, you know, if this kind of retests here, let's say I enter perfectly on this bull flag and I go right to my support, you know, 17% times, I don't know what it is, 2 or 3x, you know, that's me saying, hey, if I'm really confident Bitcoin's going to run this, I'm already just saying, you know, yeah, I'm good with 40 to 50%. That's cool with me. And so it's a level, and a lot of time what ends up happening is that, you know, Bitcoin runs up here and it chops and starts creating the 1 hour patterns or something stupid that happens up here. And this is when I'll start 15-minute trading altcoins. If I back out of Bitcoin, you know, there is usually a little bit of safety after that saying, hey, the market's still bullish, money's going to start flowing to the other ones, and I'll start looking for smaller patterns. It gets, obviously, you know, the more you do that, the higher risk goes up. But exactly what you just mentioned is why I'm usually trading Bitcoin on the fake outs. At least initially, that's what I'll take, because in my opinion, it's usually less profit, but it's kind of guaranteed, and it's just a strategy that just works for me. You know what I mean? It's not something that everybody can do by any means, and other people, prefer the alts, but
well, sometimes it's just I keep having the thought, like, it's almost just easier to trade just Bitcoin, like 3x leverage or something, because I don't have to rely on anything else. I'm watching Bitcoin anyways. And the only reason to trade alts is because you get that 1 to 2 on a lot of these, or 1 to 3 compared to Bitcoin. Like, if Bitcoin moves 1%, sometimes they move. Yeah.
The only time that it becomes harder, and it's, again, one of the reasons that, when I am trading Bitcoin, my strategy is a little bit different than when I'm trading altcoins, because I'm not necessarily pattern driven. So realistically, if, let's say I had identified this trap that happened here. Let's say that, I entered somewhere in this, who cares? There's not much pattern to trade here. I mean, there is certainly this channel that's here, and when this breaks lower, it would have been like, okay, well, I should exit here, whatever. The reason that I do like trading Bitcoin is that, all the alts did fire off in this range, but I'm sure in here they were getting hit. You know what I mean? I'm sure that you're losing a good 10-15% just in this spot. And so the reason I like Bitcoin in the traps is because you know that it's going to carry all the way to the other side. Like, I'll set my target on the next one, or realistically I would have set it at this exact level. I would have said, I'm going to let it go at this level. Because it's a bear flag, I would have said, this will end up being, a double top scenario. Let me just get rid of it at the same level, not get too greedy.
So you're saying with Bitcoin, that on that bear trap on the bottom, you're going to let it run all the way to the top of the pattern, because the likelihood of it getting there is pretty high.
Yes, which is why I say that because this is a bear flag, if we break back into here, and even if it's this level, whatever level, even if it's here, I will load up, because if we break back into this pattern, I'm not selling at this support. We're going straight through it.
Right. You're not going to even take 30% profits. You're just going to carry it.
I will almost certainly carry it. If anything, I will take some profits from it and start looking at moving it to altcoins. Solely because, if this does drag under, it might get some kind of a retest here. And that would really be the spot to say, okay, alts are about to get, demolished. And at that point, in this spot, I'm charting Bitcoin dominance. I'm looking at some of the major altcoins. I'm checking out, some of the other things. But until we get down here,
so basically,
it's
you're saying you're confidently trading the range from the top to the bottom until the range breaks, if there's a trap.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that's why I like these moves, because one of the biggest problems I have in crypto is actually taking profits too early.
Yeah.
I lose so much by, a coin pumps 20% and I'll sell it, and a lot of times it works out, because it'll run 20% and I'll mark my retest levels and I'll enter again at a retest. And, I'll get a couple of those kind of things, but, we get the bounce and I go, okay, well, this, might turn into, let's, say I get 20%. I'll sell it there. It comes back down and I'll buy it again. But then I'll sell it at 10, because I'm like, what if this is a descending triangle? I'll just take my profits and be happy. And this thing might just, moon mission. And so I lose a lot of money doing that. Which is why I really like this idea, because I'm essentially saying that if this breaks back in, I know for sure I am good at least to this bear flag, probably more, which tells me that, I'm in for 30%.
Yeah.
And that's pretty sweet, easy money. I can sleep happy, because, it's very likely that it gets in here and it does some of this kind of stuff and it chops around, it does all kinds of stupid stuff, but it's coming down here. Like, it'll get there. And so I don't have to worry about this chop with an altcoin, of that altcoin then somehow gaining some momentum and firing off. I'm just watching Bitcoin. I'm going, you're not getting out of this range. You're coming down here. Whatever time you take, you're coming down.
Yeah.
So that's why I like it. It's less stressful for me. And the decision to enter or trade or flip directions is stressful. I will not say that it's not, because you definitely, no matter what you get in here, you want the best entry regardless of which way you go. It is stressful, for sure. But once you place that and identify that, oh, this is, I've really got this pattern here now, you're sleeping cozy. You're just, and at that point, like in this short scenario, I'm actually waking up every morning and opening my phone, and I'm going to look at, I'm just going to scan like the top 100 coins, and I'm going to go, I hope I see some minus 20s in here. You just want the market to get demolished.
Right.
Which is likely what would happen if this flips this way. I think that's when altcoins will probably face their biggest hit, if this comes underneath and then goes up. But that's why I like, that's why I like the traps. They're almost certain you're going the other direction. You just have happy holding. It's quite literally, I guess it's short-term holding for the most part, but that's what I love to see. And I think that, again, not predicting the future, but always consider what's coming up in the future. Let's say that we get a run all the way up to this support level. I think that a trap is, again, a trap of some kind is very likely what ends up reversing this. And so what that might mean is that we're chopping here. Let's say we're fighting this we're fighting this resistance. We go up, we bounce it, and it comes back under. Done. Over. This is where if you get this spot right here, you just start mid-turn holding some shorts, and it's. But I do think this loss of a resistance or support level will be what ends up reversing this. It almost always is. I mean, even if you go all the way up to, the all-time high, that's exactly what happened here. I mean, had this level, gained it, chopped it, gone. Over.
Yeah, and you're looking at, like, what time frame are you, like, you are obviously just now on the 4 hour. Is that the one you look at for that? Because, like, right now, looking at the 15-minute, I can point out 3 times in the last, 48 hours that it kind of has looked like that on the 15-minute, where it's gone up and lost the level hard.
So I'll use the 1 hour for the main idea, just to kind of scan and make sure that I'm not getting too much noise. Yeah. The 4 hours, what I'd put actual reliance on. And it's essentially that you end up missing some move when you do that, because, really the one here that draws it is this big candle here. Like, you have this 4 hour and you go, okay, that's another retest. This tanked here. Like, everything would have gotten hit pretty hard in this spot, and that's just one of those things you have to be willing to accept, that the second this candle closes down here, you're like, all right, this is over. It's not happening anymore. And I'm sure the 1 hour probably has, a candle close here, a candle close here, maybe even another one up top. But the 4 hours, the one I put the most reliance on. You miss some move, but you end up avoiding a lot of the garbage. Is what it is. You don't end up getting this perfect, resell. And if I identify this 4 hour candle closes here, I'm not gonna hold for this resell level, because a trap like that is usually pretty aggressive. And that's what I say when we were looking at this, that if this comes back in here and you sell and go, all right, I'll short the retest, that is the ideal entry. It doesn't always happen. And so the reason a lot of times that if I identify a trap, the reason I really like them is because I will enter in here somewhere, and I'd be fine with it. Break of this level, 4 hour closes down here. I'm gonna go, okay, that's fine. I'll take the risk of getting drawn up, whatever that is, 10%. Losing 10% here, and just saying it doesn't matter. It's coming down here.
So in this exact scenario that we're talking about right here, so like right where you have your alerts and your line, like that's still above like the 4 hour low. That would still be a higher low. So how do you, because you're just relying on
so,
the chart.
And that's what I mentioned
Well,
earlier.
not on the chart, so on the pattern. Yeah.
If essentially, and that's kind of what I mentioned earlier, is that like essentially if I move this pattern I'm looking at, if I get all this stuff out of the way, if this strolls back down here, this looks like just a bullish retest of this level. It really does.
Right.
But what I'm putting most weight on is the bear flag.
The bear flag.
If we get this impulsive move higher, and that's one of the things that, it's one of the spots that TA has an advantage over. These lines are tricky because it's not clear cut. It can be anywhere in here. But that exactly what you just said is also why I say that, like, if we break this support, like if we get a close down here, then like it's absolutely game over. You know what I mean?
Right.
But if I'm looking at this in a perfect scenario, I'm saying that this has support here, support here, support here, resistance support. Keep flipping the words. Resistance, support. Yeah. The way that I see this happening, if we were really talking about a bear trap, and I'm not going to bank on it, is that this breaks back in, and it immediately drops down to here, and we bounce here. And then down. The problem is I'm not going to wait on this. If we break back into this pattern, I'll enter on one of these spots. Probably actually not that. I'll probably actually wait a little bit lower to be more certain about it. Again, this is kind of the gray area. It is really tricky. Hell, let's actually make it more exaggerated. We break back into this. We lose this support level. I'll enter here. I'm fine with that. If this bounces here,
I mean, to me,
if it bounces, it bounces. If it bounces, I'm looking at it knowing all it wants to do is confirm this, and I'm going, that's fine. Yeah, I confirmed my spot. And again, the reason I'm not concerned is because I'm not even predicting a trade to here. I'm predicting a trade down here.
Right.
And so,
gotcha.
It's one of those spots.
So you put more weight in this scenario, more weight on the pattern than the technical structure, because technically it hadn't broken structure until it goes below that 21,500. The bullish trend is still happening, right?
Yes.
But you're putting the weight on the pattern.
So I'm waiting.
Which makes sense. It's hard. That's a really hard spot.
It's a hard call. Yeah. No, I'm waiting this yellow line the most. If we break under that, the immediate thing I'm doing is looking at this support that I have drawn right under this alert, and I'm saying, okay, this is my 21 or 22,600. Like, hey, if we lose this range high, we lose that, and we lose this, then that's essentially, what I have marked as this whole space between these two support resistance lines is me saying, hey, think about this. This isn't right. We shouldn't be here. And so it's essentially, actually let me label that. This will be great. This will be perfect. This is our happy zone. We don't ever break under that, and we're fine.
Guys, I'm gonna have to cut. It's midnight here, guys. I'm gonna have to get to bed. But great intel, thanks, man.
No worries.
I'll keep an eye on it. Fingers crossed.
Yep.
Or I'll get out before I lose too much money and then short it. But really useful info, man. Much appreciated. Yeah.
No worries.
Take care, guys. See you later.
You too.
This is what I'm putting as our entire, and it's mostly this range right here that I would say is the heavy consideration, but it does also carry down to here as well. In between, if we don't ever break under this, then hey, things are golden. We come down here, it's too late. You're confident that hey, done is done.
Yeah.
This middle spot is certainly where. I'll be looking at 15-minute patterns, 1 hour patterns, checking everything that I can and saying, am I sure I should be flipping?
Exactly. Yeah, that makes sense. So like when we get to that zone, let's say it drops down to 22,600 or 22,400, but then on a 15-minute it starts to break market structure and go back up a little and starts to build a trend, then that's just a hard decision. Like
it is, and that's why the traps do honestly work so well. Is that you usually don't have to catch the bottoms, but that's also just another hard hard move to make. I mean, even that this broke lower, and you come up and you say, hey, this bounced here again, you're fine to enter here. You might get this drawback. And again, I wouldn't have done it because it's a bear flag, and I didn't do it because it's a bear flag. You might get this drawback down to here, but then hey, I'm going to range high again. That's fine with me. I'll take this path rather than waiting on that. And that's essentially what we're doing here. Yeah. We just have better odds because it is a bear flag. You know what I mean? It's not a bullish pattern that we're trading the other way. It's.
Yep.
But that is one of the things that is. It's the reason the strategy does work. But it is really, really difficult to do. But once you end up getting past that point and you're like, okay, I made the right choice, it is like.
Yeah.
More or less euphoric no matter what. I mean, and it's. I think that
we
had essentially done that back here where if I go down to the 1 hour, I mean, we did pretty much do that back here.
Yes.
And it was, and again, I did not go to the top. I think that I charted this as a 1 hour rising wedge and sold like in here, but it was like, that's 30%. It's like in a market.
So on that one right there, specifically, how did you, you just saw the higher low or?
No, so let me try to remember correctly because I actually bought at a spot that was not ideal because I did not wait for the retest. So I'm trying to remember right, and I know that I made charts for this,
okay,
but I don't have them on hand. And it was something along these lines.
Gotcha. I'm seeing it.
I think this is about what it was. I don't remember what I did with this candle if that just wasn't part of what I was watching. But essentially, when this candle broke under and came back in, I'm not gonna lie, I bought like right here. I'm up in here.
Yeah.
And I actually went to sleep. I went to sleep and woke up, and I woke up and it was here, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Okay.
It's like I could have had a perfect retest, but again, it doesn't matter because you're moving higher.
Do sometimes in those scenarios you add more to your position when you wake up, or down the line you're like, okay, this is a better entry, might as well add to the position here. Do you do that, or you just go one position and that's it?
It all depends on how confident I am on this move. On something like this one, it was 100% in on this spot, and I was just like, okay, we're set, let's take it. When we're talking like this breakout that's going higher, I'm doing increments here. I'm doing increments. I'm also spreading myself between more coins. But if we get this break back in, I can't say right now because I'm not sure. What my brain tells me to do right now is I would probably do a 50-50 enter where, I'm not picking 4 targets. I'm saying, let me enter now. If this just keeps dragging lower, I'll just enter again. Otherwise, I'm essentially taking the risk of 50% here. And then I'm either going to get the other 50% when this breaks, or I'm risking that. And so I'm not sure if I'll do that. That really kind of depends on the market conditions. When I see one of the traps, or I'm able to identify them, and again, I do miss some of them for sure, but when I do see them, I'm generally 100% into it, saying, let's go. Easy trading.
Yeah. No, that trap, I hesitated. I knew what to do. Based on all the stuff that we've been talking about, I saw it, and I was just like, oh, man, because I, like you, I entered a little higher and took losses, and then I was like, shit, I'm and then my mindset changed because I'm a little heartbroken because I took a loss, and then I saw it, and I saw the trap, and I hesitated, and I was like, I went to bed, and the next morning I ended up still getting a decent entry, but it wasn't like the epic one that was just sitting right there.
Exactly. No, I get that. One of the things that a lot of people will always do, and it happens when you get emotional with the coin. So let's imagine this support line or resistance line right here is something that ends up becoming a market top. Imagine that the price is running up, it chops, it gains it, and then it loses it here. You will have a ton of people right in this spot saying, oh, it's a bear trap. You'll have people that are calling out that it's a bull trap in the groups that we're in because they are a little bit more active and aware of this stuff. But you'll have a lot of people saying, oh, it's the shakeout before the pump. Don't count on it. I will enter a short, and I'll tell you what, if we get back above it, I'll enter a long again. I will take these losses all day because no matter what, when we come out of them, you're going to be on the right side of strong moves.
That makes sense.
But it is really that, like, a lot of people will call this spot here, it's a shakeout of some kind. Don't. No. If you're in a long here and you get that, like, just get out. Just get out of it, because if you don't get the retest, then it's just straight back down, and it is miserable.
Brutal. That makes sense. I mean, it's hard too, because sometimes you do get shaken out. Like, it happens. Like, exactly what you're talking about. You're like, oh man, like my stop was freaking 0.5% off, and now it's up 10%.
Even this trap. Let's say that I didn't get a great entry. I bought, this jumped all the way back in. I got another 1 hour candle close all the way up here, and I said, hey, you know what? This is definitely a trap. I went back in. I would have immediately gotten. That's 15% if you're 3x'd. You would have immediately gotten 15% down. You would have went, it doesn't matter. It's a trap. Until, we're back on the outside of that, we're going back up. And I mean, this one doesn't have great profit returns. But I mean, one of the reasons that I like the traps is because I will actually tell myself, like, I'll be charting this in here. And, let's say this is a 15-minute chart of some kind. It's a rising wedge, which it is.
Yeah.
I will always tell myself all the time, like, don't sell on this. Like, these traps just keep going. And I usually end up charting too small of patterns that the patterns I chart are valid, but the downside to them is so small, and then they go up again, and so small, and then they go up again.
Right.
Which is exactly why I say that, in these spots, I'm not looking for shorts until I have my real invalidation idea, because the moves down are very small in a market that's going the opposite direction. They always are. And the real money is in that holding if you can identify it. And the trap's really, really set up for that idea of holding. That's what I mean. I literally tell myself, like, you always sell too early. It's a trap. It's going the other way. Like, just chill. Right.
What about on the tighter, smaller time frames? Like, are you looking at traps on, like, the 15-minute and 1 hour and stuff like that? Like, an example is you have that trend line right here that you have, the white one, and halfway up, about 21,200, it broke down and then broke back up. Is that, that's a secondary trap almost.
So
on that trend line.
This is one that I would trade if it were not a bull flag. Yes.
If it weren't what?
If it weren't in the end point of a bear flag. Because essentially somewhere in here, I'm looking at this chart going, I really should have been able to identify this as a trap. Like, how did I miss this trade? Like, I'm such an idiot. And it's because, I got ripped apart here, and I got shaken up from this spot. But essentially,
honestly, I noticed you were a little quiet in that time, and I was like, "What?"
I've been so busy
on it. Like, I could feel you were quiet. Like,
that's what I mean. I was so busy with work, and then I come back to this, and I'm like, "All right, let's trade this long here. This will be fine." And it's just getting beaten up left and right. I'm like, "Come on, you gotta be joking!" But essentially, that if I had traded this as a bear trap, like I mentioned before, my goal would have probably been to sell this high, or maybe this. And so I did actually acknowledge that this was a trap. I didn't share it because realistically, all I was looking for gains there would have been at maximum, 9%, because I still would have been using this trap as my target for it. And so I don't have a great answer other than because it's so far into this pattern that I do care about.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But in terms of like small patterns, I will actually this is actually a pretty good example. If it's smaller than this, so like this is a 1 hour chart, all the candles are larger because I've got it a little bit more zoomed in. If I don't have this much data, I won't do it. Like these 15 minutes, I won't do. I'll use the 15 minutes for like exiting positions because I'll see a rising wedge or something like that. But in terms of traps,
so you had two data points by the time it broke that trend line, and that's good foresight. I need to be better at that.
I don't like the way I have this right now. I actually think it's worthwhile to go back through the Discord and figure out, when was this? Because this was so June 19th. I need to go back to that time because I did have a chart drawn up that was not quite this. This is me trying to remember what it was, which is never the same.
Sure.
But yes, this is the least amount of data I will use by far, and I'm still looking at this going, wow, I must have been pretty confident in what I did.
Where you have the alert alarm clock figure on there, you can draw a line from there down to that point, and you get more data, more touch points, right where that clock is.
Do you mean like through here? Is this what you're talking about?
No, starting right at where starting right where the clock is on the right there, yeah. But going down underneath everything, you can see it. You can see you have a few more touch points.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. But again, I don't have a great answer for the trap. How much data did I use? I'm actually looking at this in hindsight, going, wow, I must have been really confident in the pattern that was here, and I would imagine that it's probably because I was not part of this drawdown. I was out of the market for quite a bit of this, and so after all of this drawdown, I probably had this somehow drawn something like this in a way. More or less, kind of forget about this. I don't know what it was. But essentially, huge drawdown, and then something that should have broken higher, and it coming back in, and I would have went, okay, come on. That's good enough for me. Essentially, after everybody takes 30% or higher punishing, like, okay, this probably has some relief to it. But again, without going back through the actual chats, it's really hard for me to say what I was saying, because hindsight's easy.
Yep. All right, dude. Well, this is helpful, and a good chat. Hopefully